Hey guys, recording from the kitchen today. You must be wondering why. Because the kitchen is the only place in our house which connects us to the rural India where most of our farmers reside. And our topic for discussion is climate and sustainability from the rural India perspective today. And we have a phenomenal guest lined up for today's episode. Namaste and welcome to Positive Planet. Today we talk with Mr. Koushik Yanamandram, the lead of accelerator programs at Climate Asia, a firm focusing on upskilling people towards careers in climate. A professional who's focused on impact, he has a decade of experience working with rural communities on the problems in sustainability sector. And therefore today's episode is jam-packed with a lot of insights. Now it's a big conversation, and to make it easier for you, I've split it into two parts. The first part focuses on Kaushik's past journey working with rural communities, and the second part focuses primarily on his current role at Climate Asia. You don't want to miss this episode, and there is a beautiful segment at the end of the second episode. So don't miss this episode and let me know what you think of it. Let's go. Hello, Kaushik. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Vedant. I'm good. Happy to be here.
Even I am excited to have you on the show. I want to ask a lot of questions. I want to talk to you on a lot of things, but unfortunately, I'll be restricting to a few of them. And I hope I get a lot of answers that I'm really waiting for. So, should we jump in?
Yeah, sure. Happy to chat.
All right. Um, let's start with your journey itself. Like I said on your LinkedIn, it's I think one after the other, a lot of bold moves from one sector to other or one organization to other. If I have to put it in short, it's like you are an agriculture engineer, after which probably you did some ground research on farming in the south region, followed by a couple of ventures, and now you are leading an accelerator program with Climate Asia. So, just tell me, how did this journey happen? This shift from agri to sustainability.
Yeah, sure. So I think, like you mentioned, agri engineering was the starting point for me because I don't come from an agricultural family. Although my father is the first generation graduate in his family. They
Okay.
from a village
Hmm.
and moved to a small town urban area, studied and got a um, back in 80s and 70s, if you get a government job or any kind of a bank job, so that's like a great thing, right? Like that's like
Yeah.
you mobility to another level of economic class and stuff. So that happened in his generation, but I think because of him, we got to sort of like live and study in urban areas all around the country. Now, agricultural engineering also happened by accident. So I didn't really know about the course. So I just studied bio and math together in my plus two, and then happened to write both the engineering and medical exams together.
Okay.
But I just got into agri engineering in the State Agricultural University of Andhra Pradesh, and that because it is a state agricultural university, highly sponsored, well known college. So my parents were kind of happy that okay, so all their efforts of money put into coaching paid off somehow. But I think I learned a lot in agriculture university about like the challenges, the farmers, like the whole story of farming and everything else around
Hmm.
it. And I think, but I think during that time I also interacted with a lot of different volunteering groups uh, in and around my university who used to talk about farming in different ways, right? Like sustainability in farming, like what does it mean, what what's the crisis that farmers are facing today and all of that. So once I got more exposure to these kind of issues, listening to them from various people, I also started to dig into, find out. I also got placed in a technology company called John Deere, which manufactures farm equipment. But I think over a 2 year period that I worked there, I also realized that we are only kind of creating these large products and pushing them to selling them to farmers and not really solving the real problems that they have. So that was the realization. So I think when I was completing my graduation, I saw this poster in my college that there are many master's courses being offered by Terry. So as a think tank, as a research institution, they used to publish a lot. So we used to refer to a lot of their research. So the aspiration then for me was to sort of apply for something like that. I got into it, and my professors encouraged me to go for it, and that's how I kind of like got into Terry University. And once at Terry, I think it gave me even bigger, like, wider exposure to what sustainability means, because the institution itself is focused on climate change, sustainability a lot. So you would meet like-minded people. All my batchmates were there for a purpose. Like, they chose the course because they were interested in sustainability. So then you talk to a lot of people. So that's how my shift happened. Like, then I masters happened. Through the masters, all of us like kind of were encouraged by the professors there to sort of experiment, go out and work with rural communities and stuff like that. So I happened to get a summer internship at this social enterprise called Husk Power Systems in Bihar. And my professor said, you should just go. You should just go and explore what they're doing, because nobody knows what they're doing in Bihar. But we hear all the good things about them and stuff like that. So then I went to Bihar. I stayed there for a couple of months, understood their work, which is quite amazing. They light up remotest villages which has no electricity grid, with biomass gasification based electricity, right? Like microgrids. So, which was fascinating for me, because I never even imagined that some places like that would exist, where there is no grid at all, like no electric poles, no
Yeah.
infrastructure for electricity, and people are still living in, like, the gas lights and candle lights and stuff like that. So it was fascinating. So that's how my journey started, the shift to sustainability. And then, of course, one after the other, like, started exploring things within sustainability, uh, like, to be here where I am today, right? Like, I think it's been 10 years now after my master's.
But in between, you founded two ventures. One was on renewable energy solutions, and the other was on sustainable farming. So, firstly, what was the problem that you were trying to solve with these?
Yeah, so the first venture that we co-founded, that I did along with my batchmates, was to create a biodigester for farmers who have cattle, so that
Okay.
they can use all the cattle waste to create biogas and biofertilizer.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
which is not a novel technology. It's like it's been around for a while, like for many decades. Biogas is not a new thing to farmers or even to the sector, but the way in which biogas is produced today, or a few years back when we started, was in a very traditional sense, build this huge concrete plant, gobar gas plant in a
Hmm.
village, and you dump all the dung into it, and then it produces gas. And it always is built with a subsidy from the government, so it's basically a scheme that government has promoted. So all of that, so we saw a lot of problems around it. So we wanted to create more efficient, effective modular technology, because by then I think solar was already picking up. So solar energy, even for domestic use, like a rooftop solar technology,
Hmm.
has been an aspirational technology. People would want to go for rooftop if the prices and costs work for them. So then we said, if solar is picking up, why not bioenergy or biogas? Because India has immense potential, right? Like, every village you go to, the first thing you will see is a buffalo or a cow or a
Yeah.
cattle,
Yeah.
and lot of dung everywhere. So then the obvious question for us was, why isn't biogas working? Because
Hmm.
at that time, when we looked at some of the villages that we visited, we saw a lot of plants defunct, became
Hmm.
dump yards. And planning commission's report said almost 70% of the 12 million units installed have failed. So this is the data from the government at that
Okay.
time. So all of this led to this idea that, okay, let's work on this. So that's how we started the venture. And obviously, the whole encouragement also was because our professors used to ask us to go out and go to rural areas, do some surveys, and all of that exposure helped us. uh, the second venture also was similar, same biodigester technology, but this time we kind of supported a Mexican social enterprise to start their operations in India.
Okay.
Because the first venture did not really work for us commercially, so we couldn't get follow-on funding for it. The interest was very low with the investors, but somehow when we collaborated with the Mexican venture, which was already doing very great in the Latin America and Africa,
Hmm.
when they came to India to sort of start their operations, somehow they had this momentum, right? Like the investments and funds to do
Hmm.
this. So all they were looking for is a local team in India that knows stuff here to help them to sort of start an operation. So that's how the second venture started. Uh, but yeah, that's the journey. Like after the masters, like we just jumped into sort of creating these products and services for rural farmers.
And any reason why this did not pick up? Because sounds like a technology that would help the rural areas.
I think now I think it is picking up, but in a very different way because, as you know, right now there's a lot of talk and momentum around climate and carbon offsets and all of these mechanisms. There's a lot of finance also coming in, so it's picking up. But I think 10 years back it didn't pick up all for a couple of reasons. One, the policy was or the regulation was not. Suitable for entrepreneurs to enter the space because if you are highly subsidizing a particular technology, none of the farmers would be willing to pay for it. Like it's a highly subsidized thing. And for an entrepreneur to actually work with the government and access the subsidy or get the payments processed, all of that hassle is like another level of headache, especially when you are starting up, like when you are a small player in the system. And with that, we also saw that a lot of loopholes in terms of which kind of technology gets approved by the government. Because subsidy is offered only when a particular kind of technology is approved by the government or empaneled by the government. So the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has to empanel your system design to qualify for the subsidy. And for your technology to be qualified and empaneled, it takes another 1 to 2 years for the ministry to sort of monitor the progress and effectiveness of the system. And you have to again install this technology in various different agroclimatic zones, and you have to invite the ministry to come and check your progress, and it's like a whole thing of coordinating with them. So I think a lot of those things didn't really work in our favor. So we were a small group of people working on this.
Hmm.
Uh, and For you to build a business, then you have to also think about price points, retail, and how do you market your product and all of that, which never really helped us. We tried a lot. We branded the biogas as Gau Gas. We
Hmm.
created a logo with a smiling cow. All of that branding thing we tried at the time, but none of it worked largely. Like in small pockets it did. We installed some 50, 60 systems, but it didn't really work overall. But I think the moment the second venture that we started, we also got backed by institutions like NDDB, National Dairy Development Board, and a
Hmm.
couple of other corporate CSRs. So then, when you have institutional backing, then it's easy for you to sort of also showcase the uh, uh, promise of that technology. So I think that's how the second time it really worked.
But then, why switch out of the second time? I think you said it worked. As in, why did you move out of it then, if that was
Oh
working?
yeah. So I moved out of it because for two reasons. So when we were doing it for the first time, my whole focus was on making it work. Like the technology should work,
Hmm.
and it should have takers. Like the farmer should adopt them, and then once you have reached that point, then you would think about how to scale it. Like now, 100 farmers have adopted. How do
Hmm.
you make sure 10,000 farmers and 1 million farmers adopt it? So that's the journey afterwards. So I think in the second venture, in the first venture, we didn't even reach the scale at which we could think of larger ones.
Okay.
But in the second venture, I think we reached a point where we signed contracts for 5,000 installations, 5,000 farmers,
Hmm.
and all of that. So we reached that point very quickly. And this was through CSR funding, and this was
Hmm.
through grants and subsidies and all of that. And I think the moment we cross that threshold, then the whole focus for the company then is to sort of increase the production, increase the sales, right? Like then you are talking about how to reach the next 1 million, how to
Yeah.
reach the next 10 million, all of that, because India has huge potential. Even today we haven't realized it for this kind of technology. For me, the more interesting part of the whole development was to uh, encourage the farmers to use biogas in a more deeper way. Like, for example, it's not just a product that replaces your LPG or firewood.
Yeah.
It's a product that can transform the way you do agriculture, because there's a lot of biofertilizer that comes out of
Fertilizers.
the product. And coming from an agricultural education and background, I understood that farmers can actually use this. And as a company, we can encourage the farmers to do more sort of using it for natural farming or organic farming and all of that. And I think organic farming, natural farming was also picking up during that time, 2016, 2017. And then we wanted, my idea was that we pick up one geography, we work with a group of farmers and demonstrate something where they can actually transform the way they do agriculture. The package of practices changed, shifted from chemical farming to natural farming and all of that, and biogas becoming the kind of central technology for making it happen. But I think in the race to sort of scale and sell more biogas plants, the company also wanted to focus more on how do we just sell more biogas plants? Let's focus on that. And I
Okay.
think there was this difference of opinion in the way we looked at how we wanted to work. I did take up like small assignments within the company to sort of work with small group of farmers and all of that, but it didn't really work out because the larger uh, uh, company would obviously focus on the larger projects,
Hmm.
and it didn't quite align with what I was thinking about the growth.
Hmm.
So my I also happened to visit a lot of farmer cooperatives and FPOs and NGOs which work with the farmers. Then I understood that if you have to holistically think about development of the farming community, only one technology is not going to help. It's just one piece in the puzzle. There are many other puzzle pieces that you have to figure out. So then my interest shifted towards working with this kind of organizations at the grassroots, who work with the farmers and who work for a very long time. Like as a social enterprise, I would deliver a biogas plant and I move away from the region, right? Like the
Hmm.
plant will be used for them, used by the farmer for 15 years.
Okay.
Now, but an NGO or an FPO is going to work with that farmer continuously for many years, improving their farm productivity and their
Okay.
livelihoods, which
Hmm.
is a very different approach. So I
Yeah.
got attracted to that approach. I said, this is where I want to focus on beyond the technology. So I think that's why I shifted. So then uh, I moved to work with a local philanthropy in Bangalore, which was focusing on grassroots institutions. So I wanted to explore how you can build capacity of grassroots institutions to work for longer periods. I think that was an interesting proposition for me at that time.
Okay. So basically, that the reason to create impact on a grassroots level is why you switched from the traditional no, now it's making money, to no, I want to create an impact on the ground, and therefore a shift to non-profits, which is a bold move. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. Now, one more question that came to my mind while you were talking. So you said that you worked along with farmers to check if organic farming is something that can be generated, and it is in fact a need of the hour, because there's a lot of knowledge around where we say that chemical fertilizers, when seeping into the soil, they actually harm the soil, they harm the water resources around. So were the farmers on board with the organic fertilizers idea? What was their behavior like?
I think every farmer knows this, that whatever inputs they are using on the farm,
Hmm.
uh, I think they are kind of caught between this, like I need to do things which are kind of good for the soil, good for the health of the farm, good for my family, and all of that. But at the same time, I also have to take care of my income from the farm,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So between these two, I think they're caught up. Like, for example, it's very easy to increase the incomes for a few cropping seasons using a lot of fertilizer, pesticide, hybrid seeds, and all of that. But I think many farmers also realize that over a period of time, you're losing soil health, you're losing, uh, the quality of the crop, and pesticide residues and all of that is another issue on the consumption side. But I think the adoption rates are quite low because the larger system is actually promoting chemical based
Hmm.
farming, right? Like you have a system where urea, DAP, and couple of other fertilizers are highly
Hmm.
subsidized. So
Yeah,
even today, thousands of farmers queue up to get these subsidized
definitely.
fertilizers from
Yeah.
the shops. The system is set already that way from the Green Revolution period. That is how it is set. But I think slowly many people are realizing the harms of it. But there are new institutions and mechanisms that are coming up, like people who have set up NGOs that promote natural farming. So FPOs that promote natural farming, and some of the philanthropies which are promoting natural farming. So now they started to talk about this, and they are trying to figure a way out for this large population of farmers to transition to natural farming. And I think we are still in that transition period. I think it takes many different challenges to be solved to get there. But I think smallholder farmers are now shifting to natural farming in some places. So there are case studies of it. I have met few farmers in Andhra who have done that through
Hmm.
support from the government. I have met few farmers who are doing that with the support from some of the NGOs and agricultural resource experts. So I think that move is happening, but then it's happening at a very small way. Like the rate of transition is quite slow right now. Um, but yeah, I think it needs to happen more and more, given the climate crisis also is directly linked to it. Yeah.
Yeah, but this seems a little counter productive kind of thing. So the reason why chemical fertilizers were established back in the 80s was because India was going through a famine phase and we were actually having low productions.
Yeah.
And many people, in fact, say that this was the reason why Dr. Swaminathan actually started that whole movement. Eventually, we achieved a level of food security, but now even the government, like you said, the proofs are out there. The farmers know it. That definitely means that researchers like you and many others know that chemical fertilizers are in fact impacting Indian soil. Then why is government still subsidizing the chemical fertilizers over organic fertilizers?
I mean, that's a question that I also constantly try to get answers for. But I think what is happening is in an institution like the government, the ministries, and at every level, state level to national level, there is an endeavor to shift to natural farming. So it's not like
Hmm.
government is not talking about it. So they're talking about it as well. They are mentioning it in the recent budget. They mentioned about it. So they are talking about it at that level, and they have created some of the schemes which promote natural farming and all of that. They're creating that ecosystem,
Hmm.
but at the same time, the same government is also still running the fertilizer shop. uh, there's a whole ministry around it, because it's also like, I think from my understanding is that fertilizers are also sold not solely because agriculture needs to be strengthened. It's also sold because it's a byproduct of petrochemical industries, and it's a commodity that they all have to sell, and they need to constantly have the market. Like, this is like this problem of how much the same government promoting EV at the same time also selling petrol and diesel, like, because you are caught in that system. So how
Yeah.
do you transition to this side? I think we are in that period of transition for both the cases. I see that, like, and I don't know if anyone in the government are convinced about natural farming totally. And if you look at the macroeconomics of agriculture, I don't know if we as a country have proven that just by natural farming methods we can still have the same kind of food production and
Hmm.
output productivity on the
Okay.
farm, because I think for the government, food security also becomes a large issue, right? Like because they're storing so much grain in go downs and they're distributing it through public distribution systems, and they need that constantly coming in. They can't compromise on it. So I guess there are a lot of pieces here. So I feel like the transition is happening, and it will be interesting to see how this transition will happen in such a way that we move faster.
Okay. Yeah, but one more question that popped up in my head while you were talking again, that okay, but I understand that we cannot, we don't have the proofs probably of organic farming giving us the level of production that we got from chemical farming. Is there some harm to the soil's nutrients or something, which, if you shift to organic farming afterwards, which will have an incubation period of sorts to, reform those nutrients until that time that organic farming won't give the yield? Is it something like
Yeah.
that?
I think so, because I think from many models that we are seeing today, there are many different models of natural farming. I think if you are continuously working on a chemical based farming method, and if you want to shift to natural farming, I think typically it takes at least 2 to 3 years or more for the soil to actually get back to its nutritional state.
Yeah.
And at the same time, even for the market, if you want to sell organic produce, it is counted as organic after 2 to 3 years after you have shifted from chemical farming, because you still have those residues, you still have that soil not totally converted to organic cultivation method, right? Like I think that's still there. And from various models, that's what I also am trying to understand, how these transitions can happen over a period of time. But I think there's a 2 to 3 year period that one can take up.
And then this push needs to have happen a little faster. So if you want to say that this particular group of people or person should take up the responsibility to accelerate this transition, who do you think should be held responsible or accountable?
I think I because I studied in an agricultural university, and I know the ecosystem of agricultural research and the education and the extension services offered by the government at
Hmm.
different levels. So, Indian Council of Agricultural Research
Yeah.
(ICAR)
Yeah.
is the largest agricultural research system in the world, and in
Hmm.
our country that's the largest, right? And every state has a state agricultural university and extension services, and this is apart from the Ministry of Agriculture and departments of
Hmm.
agriculture in every state. So I feel that a lot of talk today that happens around natural farming happens in the civil society organizations. So
Okay.
there are NGOs and farming movements which are talking about it,
Hmm.
and a lot of activists talking about it.
Okay.
Although in one or two states, maybe the state government has picked up, and in a massive way they started to talk about natural farming. But unless the ICAR system, the
Hmm.
whole research system, and unless the agricultural research scientists take this up and do more of validating this and researching ways to sort of scale it, I don't think this can happen at a massive scale. And because if you want any minister in the government to listen to any of the data inputs to make any decision, they would obviously go to agricultural research scientists. They will not come to the civil society institution.
Okay.
uh, so I think there is that divide I see. A lot of civil society institutions are trying very hard to convince even the agricultural research community about this. I think that would be a key lever, in
Okay.
my opinion. Yeah.
All right. So the experts need to move forward with
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed this one. Stay tuned for part 2.